Hi, and welcome to this video regarding business expenses for your limited company. Now, one of the main questions you may have is, what sort of expenses can you claim? Well, a business expense is an expense which is wholly and exclusively for business purposes. And in this video, we'll be covering such topics as business travel, subsistence, entertainment, other allowable expenses, use of home, pensions, fixed assets, and also P11D expenses. And we'll be delving deeper into these topics further on.
Business travel. To be able to claim this, you must be responsible for paying for the travel costs. The travel you're undertaking must be necessary for your work, and the travel must be a journey to and from a temporary workplace. A temporary workplace is a base of limited duration or temporary purpose. An example of this is when you work from different sites but for the same employer. This is shown when you have a limited company where you work at different locations for different assignments, but your limited company remains the same. Therefore, you'll be able to claim the travel and food consumed during the period you are working.
Business travel, example expenditure.
The first one is mileage and public transport. Mileage is claimed at 45 pence a mile for the first 10,000 miles in a tax year. Thereafter is 25 pence. It's really important you keep a mileage log that shows where you're going and where you're going to, just in case HMRC want to inspect your records. For public transport, you must keep receipts. Business travel, 24-month rule. Your workplace will only be considered temporary if either the period you work there is for less than 24 months or you work there for less than 40% of the total time. The site becomes a permanent workplace from the moment you show intent to remain there more than 24 months. You can still claim travel to the point before you know it's going to be more than 24 months. One important thing to note, if you change workplace in a similar location, it's only classed as a different workplace if either the cost or route is significantly different. Otherwise, the 24-month rule still applies.
Accommodation.
You are able to claim accommodation if you need to travel overnight to a temporary workplace. An example of this is where you work at home and occasionally you have to go long distances for meetings. To be able to claim this though, it's important you keep the receipt and the cost is not excessive and it is reasonable.
Subsistence.
You may also be able to claim subsistence. This is when you're away for a whole day and you're having lunch while at a temporary workplace. Make sure you keep these receipts as you won't be able to claim.
Frequently asked questions. As an accountancy firm, we do receive a lot of queries regarding expenses. But here are some of the common queries we do receive. One of them, accommodation. So if you're living in London and you have a new contract with a client up in Liverpool, believe it or not, you can claim for the accommodation such as a rented property, provided this is reasonable and fair. And as long as there's no more than 2 bedrooms for that accommodation or property, and also, unfortunately, you can't have friends or family staying with you. But do bear in mind, if your contract is going to exceed 24 months, then these expenses will not be allowable under the 24-month rule. Another frequently asked question we get is, can I claim for my lunch? Yes, you can, provided you're working at a temporary workplace, so the 24-month rule doesn't apply, and you're traveling to your client site and back every day. And also as long as it's classed as reasonable in the eyes of HMRC. So unfortunately, going to the Ritz every day and spending £100 on lunch isn't classed or deemed reasonable in the eyes of HMRC.
Entertainment.
One expense which is slightly more complex is entertainment. You can claim entertainment when you entertain a client or potential client for business purposes. It's really important to remember though, although it's an expense, you do not get corporation tax relief off this. However, it's still worth you paying for this from a company. Another relief to do entertainment is an annual staff party. You and your partner can have a party which the cost is up to £150 each. It's really important though that you don't go over this limit or as a whole amount is disallowed.
Other allowable expenses.
Here are some other allowable business expenses you might not be aware that you can claim. The general rule is the expense must be wholly and exclusively for business. Here are some examples of this.
Charity donations.
You can claim this when you make a payment from your company to a registered charity. However, you only get the corporation tax relief to the point the business is still making a profit.
Childcare vouchers.
As an employee of your business, You can claim up to £243 per month for childcare vouchers without suffering any additional income tax or national insurance.
Glasses for work.
This one's slightly more complex. If you've got a pair of glasses that you only use for work, you can claim this as an expense. However, if you own a pair where you use for personal use as well, because of the duality rules, you will not be able to claim this expense.
General office stationery.
Although these expenses might seem small, over time they will add up. So please make sure you claim all expenses that are pens, paper or pads. Company formation costs. This is similar rules to entertainment, where it's allowable expense, but you don't get the corporation tax relief.
Frequently asked questions regarding work clothes. Another frequently asked question we get is regarding work clothes and if these can be claimed. Unfortunately, HMRC will not allow you to claim your work suit or your shirts and ties because this will be classed as a duality of purpose, which means you can wear them both at work but also at your own leisure. However, HMRC do allow you to claim things such as clothing which has your own business logo on it, safety gear and equipment, and also uniforms, which are specific to certain professions, so such as nurses. These would be allowable.
Use of home as an office. HMRC allows you to claim £4 a week when you use your home as an office. There's a complex method that you can use when you're calculating your home as an office. Now, this is based on a proportion of your home bills. Now, the proportion of the home bills will be divvied up between a percentage of the business use for each room, plus the time spent on each business task. Now, you should only use the complex method when you're working from home most of the time. But you need to remember that this effectively counts as rental income, and you need to include this in your self-assessment. We suggest that you don't use a single room for 100% of the business use, as it could rise to a capital gain liability.
Pension.
There are two types of pension contributions: personal pension contributions and company pension contributions. When you contribute from your own funds, the government will top this up by 20%. You also get an additional relief if you're a high rate taxpayer. Therefore, the total relief will be 40%. The second type of pension contributions are made from a company. The company can make annual contributions in a given tax year up to £40,000. It must remember this limit of £40,000 includes your personal pension contributions.
Fixed assets.
Another type of expense you may suffer is fixed assets. Fixed assets is when you buy an item which you're going to use for more than 1 year and will bring in future economic benefits. An example of this would be a laptop or machinery. Although these don't reduce your profits in the company, you do get another type of tax relief. This is called capital allowances, and this will reduce your tax paid. Another really important point about fixed assets is when you dispose of them. This could be done via selling to another party, or it is written off because it has no value. When you do this, it's really important you tell us so we can make an adjustment in your accounts.
P11D Expenses and Benefits. It is generally suggested you consider the following expenses, as they do have additional tax payable, as there is a personal element to them. The company would be liable for 13.8% national insurance of the cash value. This cash value would be included on your self-assessment and taxed at whatever the income rate you are taxed at. Here are a list of some of the main items you could potentially see on your P11D and self-assessments. Company car and van. Any vehicle that personally used is normally a P11D benefit. For a car, this is based on its value and CO2 emissions, while a van has a flat rate of £3,170 for 2017. Personal use of fuel. Any fuel paid by the company for a personal journey is a P11D benefit. Telephone. Personal telephone calls from a landline or mobile contract, not in the company name, goes on the P11D. In order for the telephone bill to be allowable, the contract should be in the company's name. HMRC allow companies to make a mobile phone available for each employee. Medical insurance. This is a P11D benefit, as you are personally benefiting from the company providing you with additional insurance. Training. These costs, where the training is designed to impart, instill, improve, or reinforce any knowledge or skills which are going to be useful when performing their duties or better qualify the employee to carry out the employment, doesn't need to go on a P11D. Accountancy fees. If the company pays for a personal tax return, then this would be a P11D benefit, because you have personally benefited from the company paying this. Professional subscriptions. These have to appear on HMRC's approved list. Otherwise, it goes on the P11D. Please note that this is not an exhaustive list of potential expenses which could appear on your P11D. For more information, please do not hesitate to contact us. So in summary, all business expenses should be wholly and exclusively for business purposes. If you are entering it into any contracts, so for telephone, landlines, internet, training, they should all be in the business's name. And if you do have any queries regarding further expenses, please feel free to refer to our Help Center for more information, guides, and articles.